Hi everybody, Bonicila here, FootyNotes podcast. Um, so last time we spoke a little bit um, about all the speculation around Messi. I didn't think it was power plays and whatnot. I really thought Messi was leaving Barcelona, and my guest didn't think that was the case, and so we had a pretty cool chat. If you wanted to check out that podcast from Friday, I had a guest on the pod, and we had some interesting thoughts shared on the pod, and so yeah, like basically, it looks like it's really happening. Messi is going to leave Barcelona for sure. He spoke this morning and he was in tears and never wanted to leave the club. And all good things come to an end. I at the time of the news coming out, I don't know. I just for some reason I bought in real quick because guy's been there for over 20 years. Sometimes these things just have to come to an end, and he's given his life pretty much to that football club, and he's gotten a lot back. It's not like he was slaving away and he got nothing out of the deal. He got quite a lot. He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. Period. So, I'm not saying now he needs to. I don't know, show gratitude or, like do something that's untoward or things that are not expected of people to do. But I do think, he got a lot of good stuff, world fame and all that kind of stuff. Not that he really set out to do all of that, but many people recognize him today as the greatest player to ever live. So that can't hurt. And it looks like he's going to go to PSG. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that extends his career if he doesn't get terrible kicks like Neymar tends to get in France. Neymar gets kicked around a lot, in France, and for quite some time actually. In his first 2 seasons there, for sure, he would get an injury leading up to the Champions League knockout stages, and for some reason he wouldn't be able to participate in the knockout stages of the Champions League. I hope that's not Messi's fate, and that Messi is able to stay fit and prolong his career maybe by 4 years, maybe even 5, because PSG has too much arsenal for the rest of the people in that league. I know they didn't win last year, but it's usually PSG losing the league title rather than somebody else winning it. So if you think about that setup at PSG and what Messi can do for his international career as well as prolonging his club career, that can't be hurtful. So we'll see how it all plays out, from now on. But it looks very, very unlikely now. Very, very unlikely. Maybe 0.0001% that he plays for Barcelona in the next year or two. Now it's football. Anything can happen. We'll see until he has signed on the dotted line for PSG or whomever. We can't know for sure what he will end up doing. I do think, though, that PSG are one of 2 to 3 clubs, maybe 4 if I'm being generous, who can afford Messi's wages. So, with that said, I don't expect that he will he will go to many other clubs, and because of that, I think it's a done deal to PSG. If I'm being honest, like I'm just being cautious because things can happen with transfers. So yeah, that's done, and we'll see. Maybe now Ligue 1 will be more of a pool in terms of TV revenues and all that kind of stuff. Maybe the clubs in that league will get more money because the biggest guy in the world of football is moving there. We'll see how that affects things. Going to England, Arsenal Football Club. My fucking goodness, this club, man. They were playing against Spurs today, and I paid for the game. I know it was for a good cause. Half of the money is going to charity, so that's fine. I was like, okay, I'll pay so that I can make comments that are based on watching the game. I was actually not going to even talk about the game because I wanted to do a preview podcast for the upcoming season today, but I hadn't seen a game for quite a while. The Euros ended July 11th. It's almost a month since I had seen some meaningful football. I didn't keep a close eye on the football at the Olympics, and so I thought, okay, I'll pay for this. It's the last friendly game before the league starts for Arsenal on Friday and for everybody else next weekend anyway. So I just wanted to see where things were and how things were looking, and I won't go too deep into this game, but it was an infuriating game to watch. Arsenal did a lot of the good tippy-tappy things that they do in their build-up play, at least for the first half to like 60 minutes of the game. They played really well, but they didn't really threaten the Tottenham goal. So because of that, the game was within reach for Tottenham when they did wake up or when they did have a dangerous moment, and they had a couple. I tweeted at halftime that Tottenham had the best chances of that half, even though Arsenal had played the better football of the half. Arsenal were really, really doing well. I think Lokonga finished the half with about, he's a new signing from Anderlecht. He finished the half with about 96% pass rate. Successful completion of passes was 96%, and he completed close to 93% in the opposition half. So of about half of that 33 passes that he made, 33 passes. I'm not looking at the data right now, but I was impressed by him. I was impressed by Ben White. I was impressed by Emile Smith-Rowe and Lacazette. So those four guys, I would say, did themselves justice, and they looked ready to go into a Premier League game on Friday. The rest were okay at best, and the rest of them, some of them were even terrible. I don't know what Aubameyang did in that game, besides beating Pierre-Emile Højbjerg on the left flank to make a cross that ended up in nothing. But yeah, like for the first 60 minutes, like most preseason games go, Arsenal played a good game until then, and then they needed to make changes. And once those changes started rolling in, Spurs were playing better by then, to be fair. But I do think, yeah, as the game went on, Tottenham became the better team, period. And so with that said, it was just like one of those things where you're wondering where is this project going, and I know it's very risky to think like that in a preseason game, but this is not an isolated game. This is a continuation of games now. They played against Chelsea last week, lost 2-1, cheap goals being given away by Bellerin, literally passing the ball to Tammy Abraham for Chelsea's winner. Today, the goal again, some very questionable decision making by some experienced players at the back. I know there was a little bit of like bing bong bouncy ball happening on the right flank. Pepe loses it, but I wouldn't even blame Pepe for that. But there were 2 to 3 players who could have covered after that. And I think that was for me what made the goal for Spurs. Pablo Mari, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. he decides to just disengage. He has the advantage. Ball is right there for him to either kick it all the way up to Rosette, where I'm from, whatever fucking row, just kick it off the touchline. He doesn't do that, and then El Neni is too busy ball watching, so the ball goes in front of him, but there's a runner between him and Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney is facing the ball in that way, so El Neni is the one who can see all of this happen. Heung-min Son gets the ball from Tanganga, slots it in, like, with his left foot. Well taken shot, well taken goal, but I just don't know what the fuck was going on with that experienced defensive line, that I was so disappointed, not just with the defending for the goal, but like seeing old dudes who have experience, who've been around the block, play some of the way these guys play who play for Arsenal. I think now, there's a deeper culture problem there, and I don't want to blame the manager for this. I don't think he's created it, and to a degree I sympathize with him, because what can one do with a club that does so much to fuck itself over? They find ways to fuck themselves over, Arsenal. And this game was just another example of that. Like Chelsea, they donated a goal. This game, played well, but conceded the most obvious glaring chances, like from inside the penalty box area, were for Spurs. Dele Alli hit the post twice from about 4-6 yards. The second time was about both from like within the 6-yard box area. Son had a save, like a point blank save made by Leno, where Leno thought we thought Leno was injured. In the first half, he was lying down there for a minute early on in the game, and we were like, oh wow, this is going to be 75 minutes of Runarsson. Luckily, Leno was not hurt, which brings me to a different point. That I know they're looking for a reserve goalkeeper, so hopefully they will find one. However, they haven't found one yet, and who's to say they're going to find one before Friday? So there's a scenario where they're going into Friday with Runarsson or Arthur Okonkwo or Karl Hein as their backup goalkeeper for the first Premier League game of the season, and that's not something that any Arsenal fan is going to be happy about. I don't even think that the coach is going to be happy about that. But there we go. We're going to go into the Premier League game on Friday. Likely, right? There's still a whole week of transfer dealings to happen. But even so, the reserve goalkeeper should have been a priority and it should be sorted out. I know Leno is fit right now and available, and that was not a big deal, thankfully. But I just know that things can happen. And not too long ago, that's how we found out about Emi Martinez and how good a goalkeeper he had become after being loaned, on and off for a period of about 8 to 9 years. So I just think Arsenal Football Club need to fucking sort things out really, really quickly. I don't know what it is that they're planning to do with the goalkeeper thing. Ramsdale, it does sound like a lot of money for a backup goalkeeper to pay 30 plus million pounds. Maybe they should just go to the West Brom guy and just pay for him and have him challenge Leno and Sam Johnston, I think is his name. They should maybe just get him rather than flipping having Runarsson or the youngster Arthur Okonkwo on the bench come Friday. So we'll see how it all goes, but I do think Arsenal need to fucking figure their shit out. I'm going to stop here for this segment just for a little bit, and then I'm going to start talking a little bit more about this game coming up, and also just have a look at like some of the things that are worrying. I'm not going to talk about everything because there's so much to talk about, but just have a look at some of the things that are worrying and where the possibilities for good things to happen as well, maybe with the season coming up. All right, so we're back after this short little break. So there were news, Willian. Before I go into what's coming next or Friday and look a little bit at the season. So Willian didn't make the match day squad today. Joe Willock didn't make the match day squad today, as did Rob Holding. And after the game, Arteta didn't speak of Willian, so maybe there's a move happening, or Willian is getting frustrated and maybe got angry at training or something. I don't know what might have happened there, because Willian, for as long as I've heard about him or known of him as a football person, with the exception of the one time where he just went to Dubai in the middle of quarantine last year, he's normally a very well regarded guy, and trains well, good work ethic, just a soldier, one of those soldiers who understands what he has, in terms of the privilege that football players have, especially those who don't come from a lot of wealth, and he seems to be one of those guys. But the coach couldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole in the press conference today. Rob Holding, he spoke about Rob Holding's absence more with a little bit more clarity and conviction than he spoke about Joe Willock. He was a little bit vague in speaking about Willock, and I think part of that was based on the news that then followed a few hours after the game between Arsenal and Spurs finished. Willock didn't play today. Arteta says, "I'll tell you when I'm able to tell you," when asked about why Willock was absent from the squad. It then was basically trending that Arsenal and Newcastle had agreed a deal for Joe Willock, which was really pleasing for the kid and for his career. I think Arsenal fans are split or divided on what this player is and what should be done with this player. I personally am on the camp of Arsenal fans who really like this player. I am not too sour grapes to see him leave, because it helps the club at the moment. I don't know what the sell-on clause is. I know that there's one inserted in this game, in this transfer. There's a sell-on clause, and it sounds like some people are saying there may even be a buyback clause, but I know there's a sell-on clause for sure, and the fee is reported to be 25 million including add-ons. So it sounds like 22 million up front, and then, or in installments, but 22 million guaranteed, and then £3 million to be added to the fee based on whatever conditions being met. And it could be number of games, could be staying in the Premier League and not getting relegated. I don't know what those conditions are, but it does sound like a fair deal. This is one of those kind of Iwobi, Oxlade-Chamberlain moments for me as an Arsenal fan, when a player that you like leaves before they've had before they even reach their prime or peak years. I do think it's an okay move to have made like for Arsenal to have made. I'm not that they need my approval or anybody's approval. Clearly, they think it was an okay move to make because it looks like they're making it. But I like the fit for him at Newcastle if Brucey stays, especially, or if they have another coach who plays a style of football that suits him. He's got runners there. He's a runner. He's a worker. He will improve his defensive side of the game. Steve Bruce was a central defender himself. Likes to, focuses on team shape a lot. So he has a coach who believes in him there, as long as Brucey doesn't get fired. And good luck to him. Good luck to him. Our fans will say what they will, one way or the other. Just like fans of football clubs, whenever players get sold, it's very hard to agree or to have everybody agree on the same thing. So, Joe Willock, I would have liked to have seen him have a chance, but it makes sense for him to leave. And I also think part of this, which is similar to the year Iwobi left, there were players like Mkhitaryan that you couldn't get money for, or you couldn't get, nobody wanted to move them, and because they were overpaid. And Arsenal offers these generous contracts that Arsene Wenger and I don't know who, Gazidis or David Dean, they started this very kind of like socialist structure of pay. I mean, it's not socialist because these guys get paid a lot of money, but what was interesting about the way Arsenal did their wage bill and their structure, the highest paid player didn't make too far away. There was not too much of a range from the highest paid player to the least paid player in comparison to some of the other big clubs. Some of the other big clubs will really give their big hitters big contracts, and then they'll have a lot of players who are on some of the lower contracts, 15, 25,000 pounds a week kind of contracts. At Arsenal, it was quite quick to climb up the ladder, which is why it's very difficult for Arsenal to let players go. Not that they don't want players to go, but it's very difficult for Arsenal to sell players because other clubs may not think that player is worth paying that kind of money, and so players tend to then not want to leave. I mean, who wants to leave and take a pay cut just, as part of their day-to-day, moving from one place to another, changing jobs. In any other field, when you're changing jobs, unless you were fired and then maybe didn't work for a while, usually when you're leaving one place of employment to go work at another, they either match your current salary or improve upon it, right? So that's why it's been difficult for Arsenal to sell players, especially those who were there during the Wenger era. Now it's not all on Wenger. It's not just a Wenger thing, because clearly these new guys are kind of prone to this kind of thinking, or showing that they are not allergic to it, because David Luiz, okay, that was a short-term contract, but Cedric and Willian are the kind of contracts I'm talking about. And now, I don't know, because Cedric didn't even play today. I don't know if he was injured. Actually, he did play. Very, very late on he played. But, because I remember him fouling Ali. Actually, he was fouled by Ali, but the referee gave the foul to Dele Alli. So, players like that who don't give you a whole lot in the day-to-day, week-to-week, because you have other players that you like better than them in the same position they're in, and they're cheaper. Callum Chambers, cheaper than Cedric. Ainsley, cheaper than Cedric, and they're both English. So, they don't take a foreign squad option there for, another player to come in. Bayern probably costs a little bit more than Cedric, or much more, depending on what Cedric was, was eventually offered, because he came for 5 million loan fee, and then once the loan ended, he was a free contract or free agent. So, long story long, I think Cedric and Willian, Pablo Mari starting to really, really peeve me off too after today, and having seen him a little bit this preseason, he's really starting to piss me off. I think I'm not alone too in feeling this way about him. I really had a lot of hope for him as a defender who could fill in the gaps, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that he's better than Holding. For a while there, I thought he would be better than Holding, but I'm not so sure anymore. I think Rob Holding, he's not that great, but he might actually be better than Pablo Mari. And I don't know if Chambers would actually play center back still, because it seems like every time he's been used, it's at. Oh my God! Excuse me. It's getting late. It's at right back, except for today. He did come on in the middle for when Ben White left the field, but most of the time since that injury, he hasn't played as a center back. So it's going to be interesting to see what Arteta is thinking there, or Edu, what they're thinking. There's still quite a bit of transfer market time left, so it's going to be interesting to see what other moves are made. I know that things are starting to happen because the season is starting, so people need to make decisions. But it does look like there's going to be a major trolley dash for all clubs come August 25th to August 31st, September 1st, kinda, because it's been really, really slow. So I don't know what kinds of deals people are going to be able to complete. It could be a lot of loans, or it could be loans with obligations, loans with option, that kind of deal, that kind of stuff, like with Guendouzi. Speaking of which, he's another player. Besides his attitude issues, he's another player. I think, had we not had such a bloated squad, we might have felt a little bit more inclined to charm him to stay, or talk him into staying, or do a bit better with handling him. I don't know the ins and outs of what happened, but it does look like it was a very quick road to point of no return for him. I don't know what he could have done to make that decision happen so quickly, but Saliba maybe will tell you, because he feels the same thing happened to him. So that's that. I am going to pause just really quickly to gather my thinking, get a little bit of water, and then I'm going to talk about Friday's game. So let's have a look at Arsenal Brentford game that's coming up this Friday. Lot to be excited about, really, for Chelsea fans, Man City fans, Man United fans, and I'm not sure how Liverpool fans would feel. But as an Arsenal fan, I definitely feel like this season is starting too soon. With regards to just being ready for it. I hope to be proved wrong, but I really think that the club have not done to the starting 11 what I think should have been done, and I don't think they've even been able to do what they thought they'd be able to do to the starting 11. They've only really bought one guy who can start regularly. Sambi looks like he could too, by the way, but I don't think that was the plan. I don't know if it was, but I doubt that they bought him with the plan to start. But yeah, sorry. By the way, like you might be hearing some cicadas and like that kind of sound coming from behind me. Apologies for that. Like, a lot of these episodes will have that little sound of that because these guys are just here. Apparently, this happens every 15 to 20 years or whatever, where they just come out of their little spot and come and hang out with the humans. So they are loud all day long. They never stop. But long story long, enough of the cicadas. Coming back to the season starting on Friday. So yes, newly promoted Brentford is not too bad a fixture for the first fixture of the season and playing away. Arsenal finished the season really well last season, but after the last two games they've played against good opposition, they've left a lot to be desired. There were good periods in both games against Chelsea and Spurs. I think the good periods lasted longer in the Chelsea game compared to the Spurs game. I do like that Arteta went with Lokonga instead of El Neni as the partner for Xhaka. So let's see what he does on Friday. So what I wanted to do today, looking ahead to that game, I wanted to just make a prediction as well as predict the lineup and then predict what I think is going to happen for the outcome. And then later on, I hopefully by the time that the game kicks off, maybe there will be a signing or two. That's wishful thinking, but it's not too bad to wish during the transfer season. So what I'm going to do is go basically from number 1 to 11, who I think will be in the goal, all the way to strikers and all that stuff. I might say in a certain position or two or three what I think the coach will actually do versus what I would do. Actually, I'll go all the way that way. So the first thing I'll say is, this is what I would do. This is what I think Arteta will do. So basically, in goal, I don't think there's any disputes there. I think Bernd Leno, he's by far and away the best goalkeeper at the club. So he will be in goal. That's what I would do. That's also what I think Arteta would do. At right back, I would go with Callum Chambers because he was the best performing right back in the second half of the season last season. He crosses the ball really well. He gives us a little bit of solidity, especially if we're going to be looking to cover the middle bits with maybe Sambi, with being a little lightweight there, with Sambi playing in there as a youngster. I think he could tuck in. Him and Ben White could work really well, I feel, because they're both very intelligent footballers who read the game very well and very strong communicators. So I would like the idea of Callum playing there, and they both former Southampton boys, which could help a little bit, but also they speak the same language. Hector speaks the same language, but physically I don't think he is up for 90 minutes. Hector might be still one of the people who could make a move. So with Inter getting a lot of Lukaku money and maybe even Atletico. So I personally would go with Callum Chambers. It's hard to know what Arteta will do in that position. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to agree with me and go with Chambers. Because Cedric, I like him as a backup, and I think he'll do a job for Arsenal should he remain. But we'll see. So Chambers is my number 2. Number 3 at left back. That's another one of those, like he selects himself, Kieran Tierney. So no arguments there. Kolasinac, I would never cry if he didn't play another game for Arsenal for the remainder of his life. So yeah, Tierney at left back. The two centre backs, Ben White is a definite lock in that first 11, and I think Arteta will agree with me and start him too. And then partnering him, Murray has had the nod over the last two most meaningful pre-season game, because the Chelsea and the Spurs game, they are as meaningful as pre-season games can be, and Murray has failed the audition. It's going to be interesting to see how Arteta manages that. Does he take the shirt away from him, or does he show faith in him to like really prove that he's worthy of a jersey? What I would do, I would give Murray, because Gabriel is not fit to play, and Holding sounds like he had a problem before the Spurs game. So I would leave Murray next to Ben White. New partnership as well, so to be fair to him. So I would leave Murray and Ben White at centre back, even though I'm not happy with Murray at the moment. And then in centre mid, I would go with Lokonga and Granit Xhaka as the pair there in the center of midfield. What would Arteta do? He will play Xhaka, and some naughty streak in me that thinks he's going to play El Neni. So I think he'll play Xhaka and El Neni, but I would go with Lokonga and Xhaka. Because it's an away game, that's why I think he might go for the caution. Arteta has been surprisingly cautious as a manager, compared to what I imagined he would be. He's been a lot more conservative around certain things when it comes to team selections, and sometimes even the way his teams approach games. So I think he'll go with El Neni. I wouldn't. I would go with Lokonga next to Xhaka. And then this is where it gets interesting. This is what I would do with the front four. And I'll go with Arteta after that. I'll go the whole four of what I would do. Actually, no, I'll go one by one. Right wing, I would go with Pepe. I think Arteta will go with Pepe. He finished the season strong last year. 2 braces in the last 4 games, and a couple of really good plays overall. He's really starting to get the game in England, and starting to really come into his own as a more complete footballer. I don't think he'll ever be £72 million, but he's definitely not the flop that people were, starting to be afraid that he would be, or even some people were already calling him that. He's not the flop, but let's see how this season goes. I think this is going to be a good season for him. And when fit, I would have him all the way there, all the time there, and then I would have Smith Rowe and Saka on the left. And because those 3 have a good understanding and they interchange very well. Those should be, for me, the 3 starting behind the striker, whoever the striker is. So I still would go with Smith Rowe on Friday. I think Arteta will too. I would go with Aubameyang for this game, even though I don't like it. I think Arteta will, unless Arteta wants Martinelli, who's back in training today, and he's been playing. He was at the Olympics. He's ready to play. He did have his break before the Olympics. Unlike Saka, I think Saka would need to come off the bench against Brentford, but I think Martinelli could start. I don't think a lot of people are seeing it that way, because I'm not hearing anyone talk about him. But I think I would go with Alba just for this game. I think Arteta will do the same. And then up front, I'll go with Lacazette, and I think Arteta will go with the same. So 1 to 11, quick fire, rapid fire. Leno, Chambers, White, Murray, Tierney at left back. Xhaka, Lokonga at centre mid. Pepe on the right wing, ESR behind Lacazette, Alba. That's my starting 11, and I think that team is good enough to go to Brentford and win 3-2. I think Brentford is going to get goals. Ivan Toney is a good striker, and a lot of people might be falling asleep on them as a footballing team. I think they're going to do to teams what Leeds was able to do to teams when they became promoted. There are different ways teams can play when they get promoted. They can play like Wolves, be very strong on the counter-attack, or they can play like fucking West Brom and Burnley and teams like that who try to be hard to beat and then do something very English, like maybe be good at long throws or be good at set pieces and, muck the game up. That's the other way you can do it. Or you can do like what Leeds and what I think Brentford will do. I like Thomas Frank. I really rate him as a coach. I think to be quite honest, between him and the guy at Norwich, Farker, Daniel Farker or Fuck, I don't know how you say his name. It sounds too much like fuck. But those two guys, if Arteta didn't work out at Arsenal, I would really be happy to see them coach the Gunners, because they play the style of football I think Arsenal fans are used to. And he plays a 4-3-3, Thomas Frank. So let's see what happens. I expect an Arsenal win, and I think the part of the caution and the El Neni and the Alba with Laka thing, I think it's an away game in the Premier League, first game of the season. I think those guys will start, and then the team will sort itself out after that. I think by the time Man City and Chelsea come, or those games come, there'll be a League Cup game somewhere there, because we sucked last 2 years. We're gonna start early in the Carling Cup, or Carabao Cup these days it's called. So, yeah, that's my prediction. I will do a kind of like state of the affairs kind of season preview podcast later on, because the next pod will be recorded on Friday as a reaction to the game, as well as a look ahead, just to see, there's going to be lots of time to look ahead. If there's lots of game content to go on, then I'll probably do that, but moving forward, there's still a lot more transfer window to talk about, so I may or may not include it on Friday's pod, but just check us out and see what happens. But yeah, for the time being, y'all have yourselves a really, really good rest of the week, and be good to each other and to yourselves. Cheers.